Welcome to Patrick's Simulation Realities, where the world of conflict simulation comes alive through conversations with the people who shape it. From game designers and developers to playtesters and passionate hobbyists, we explore the stories, strategies, and creativity behind your favorite war games. Dive deep into the art of simulation and discover the minds behind the mechanics. Brought to you by VUCA Simulations, connecting history, theory, and gameplay.
All right, welcome back to my podcast. Today I have a special guest who is working together with us on a game about the campaign in Poland in 1939. And he also comes from Poland. So it's a German-Polish cooperation portraying a dark time in history. His name is Greg. So sorry, I will not even try to pronounce your real full name. Maybe you can help me here.
I really forgive you. So it is Grzegorz Kuryłowicz.
Exactly.
In
Okay,
many
so-
Polish movies, there are jokes about foreign people trying to speak Polish names. It never worked.
Yeah, I
So,
bet. All right, so welcome to the show, Greg. Yeah, we've met last year in Poland at a convention, right? And we had the chance to do some playtesting of your game design, which is called Enforced to Heaven. And yeah, maybe at first you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself. So what's your profession and what's your background in the hobby?
hobby, and there comes the snowball effect of this conversation. So first, thank you very much for your invite. I already appreciate to be part of this podcast, and hello to everyone. So I live in Poland, in Gdańsk. I actually come from Ełk, which was part of Eastern Prussia until the end of the Second World War. And I like playing war games, obviously. Professionally, I work as a train driver in Poland for 12 years now, and this is my love affair from how long I remember. I always wanted to be a train driver, and it became true some time ago. But in a way, I was supposed to be historian, then I was supposed to be professional musician, because I started for the music academy, for pipe organ, or for the piano classes, but I did not get it on the first time, and then I hit the wall of reality, like a question, think, well, if you wanna really do it in your life. And the ultimate question was, no, not really. So I play war games for as long as I really remember, because it's a little similar story to what Yves. Sorry, Yves.
Eve, yeah, Eve.
Eve, yeah, sorry, Eve. What Eve told in your first episode of your podcast. I started in my very young age.
Oh,
As
cool.
there was a Polish publisher, Dragon. There are few Polish publishers that publish some games, but in a more geeky group of friends, we all had games like the first Talismans and Hex and Counter Dragon games. Like everyone had some Ardennes or Battles of the Second World War and stuff like this, and we sometimes met and played. And for me, it was something to really hook on, and I got interested in this. Then I got interested very much in the history. Then I watched Saving Private Ryan, which really gave so much impression on me that I wanted to explore the background of the Second World War in the deep. Then I bought my first M1 uniform, Rangers uniform, reenacted
Right, you're a
Rangers
reenactor,
Drew.
right?
Yeah, used to be.
Yeah.
Now with two
Mhm.
kids, I really don't have time for this. But
Yeah.
I think I will go back to this sometime.
Cool.
And
So how easy was it to get war games back in your childhood in Poland? Right nowadays, you can order any games
Mhm.
from anywhere in the world using online shops and so on. But back in the days, uh,
They used to be sold in bookstores and toy
oh really?
stores because those games were not really expensive, and they were amazing in amazing artwork quality, but not really quality in quality, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like
the
the box.
the the Polish games we're
Yes,
talking here.
yes,
Ah,
yes,
right.
yes.
Did you also
So
get American war games like I don't know, Advanced Squad Leader or something like that?
mm, no, not until the I think 2000. It was around when first Holland 44 was released, because
No,
I had some episodes that I forgot about playing war games around my high school time.
sure.
And then when I got back to playing war games, I wanted to try out something Western. And of course, before the issue was the language, because 10 or 11, 12-year old cannot really learn the
Sure.
rule book
Yeah.
of, let's say, Paths of Glory and start playing it and explain it to someone to start playing with someone. So language was the barrier, and later, of course, it disappeared. So when I first got my first Western game, which was Holland 44 by Mark Simonich, and then Paths of Glory, the doors were opened wide, and the
Yeah.
flow of boxes of various war games just started flowing, and I
So
was
you're a
thrilled again.
collector too. You're collecting war games.
Oh yes,
Right.
unfortunately yes, I'm
Yeah.
collecting. I have some. I sell some of the games. I lost track how many of them do I have exactly right now, but I think it's easily more than 100.
Right.
Uh,
You also sold one to me, right?
yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Right. So, what's your favorite games? Like top three?
My top three games. I think it would be more of a systems than a games. The first one that comes to my mind is the Catherine, the Baptism by Fire by Battalion Combat Series.
Yeah, the BCS. Right.
This system was a revelation for me, and this game is really amazing because it's not that big, it's not that counter heavy, and the system is very interesting to play. It's an amazing innovative system. Uh, it is actually one of the systems that inspired very much what In Force to Heaven was later like. And it's really interesting in terms of what are the victory conditions and how do you pursue your victory. It's very good to play.
Cool.
Uh,
So did you play more titles in the series?
yeah, I have all titles of this series.
Yeah, you
I
played
have
them
all
all?
of them. Not fully. I played some of scenarios from all of them. I did not play the full campaign of any of those, except
Right.
Catherine, because those are monster games, unfortunately, and you need time and space. So I had not had chance yet, but I really want to do Last Blitzkrieg full campaign.
Yeah, you can do it whenever we have released the game. You got more time back, right?
Yeah, you think so? You think so? Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
see.
maybe retirement. We all need retirement.
Right.
So the next games. Well, let's tell systems that really struck me was the enemy action system by John Battlefield.
Right.
Again, really refreshing and really really interesting system to play, and again, kind of a revelation with the mechanics that are used there. The system
Yeah,
is really
did
easy
you
to
play
play.
those solitaire?
Yes, I've played both games. both solitaire modes and face-to-face. For Ardennes, I finished the whole campaign from the two sides. And everyone wants to play German solo. Believe me, German solo, Allied solo is much better.
All right.
And then on the third place, there's GTS series, Grand Tactical series. When I set up this, I think, okay, what I'm gonna do with it now? But it looks so good, and there are also in terms of mechanics, revelations that came to me. And for example, for anyone who will open the rulebook of In Force to Heaven, I think there will be some really vivid some vivid things that you saw somewhere. Like in Force to Heaven, what I got from the GTS, what GTS inspired me to do, is to make levels of cheats in a cheat pool. Like you don't have a cheat that you always activate something like this, but you have cheat for army, cheat for the front, cheat for some lower rank units, cheat for some events and stuff like this. And playing this, every game, every scenario is very long, but it's very interesting, let's say, dance of units that you're in front, and you need to rotate them and get them until they are only lost cohesion. You can still repair them, but if they lost stops are you cannot regain your steps. So you want to pull out from the front your, for example, battalion until it gets really wrecked, and plug the hole with another battalion. No, it's like you feel that it is really grand tactical series. It's operation and tactical in two ways,
and it's just a beauty.
Yeah. And I really and sorry that this is the fourth place, because I didn't have chance to play that much, but I must say Nach Paris.
Oh, really?
Nach Paris, yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes, I really enjoyed this game, and this game will always be in my heart, because this is the immediate when I open this game, because I buy almost all games of VUCA that are released. I started with Fachen, and now oh, sorry, I missed career battles.
Right.
So not all. But when I opened Nach Paris for the first time, and I already had my In Force to Heaven project, it was called Dark September at the time. I opened this game and I saw this, and I had a thought already to maybe talk to someone to get it released, because it was never in plan with my game. But then I opened the Nach Paris game for the first time. I opened the map, saw the details on the map. I saw the counters. You saw my scenario cards for the first version. It's Nach Paris. Come on. I opened this game and I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, this is my game. This is exactly how I see in my dreams my game will look like. And then I wrote to you. I think maybe it was the same or a few days later when I shrink wrapped the Nach Paris for the first time, because I thought, what the hell? Why not?
Yeah, now
Patrick won't shoot you if you ask him.
Now you got your own map made by the same graphic artist.
Yes. Right. That's really amazing.
Yeah,
that's really amazing.
I'm glad to hear that. So, yeah, why don't we talk a bit about your own game design?
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your personal background in game designing? First, is it like with Eve, who was designing his own systems in games for himself since childhood, or how did you get started on this?
Yeah, it's similar as Eve's story. I still have in my grandparents some written down with pencils, some rules, some maps with some trees, and using. When I was going to visit my grandparents and I didn't have any game with me and I was bored, I was creating tactical war games using buttons and like dirt from the wardrobe. Okay, this little dirt is going to be a tank battalion now. So I took anything that I could and placed on the handwritten map, and I was just doing some fun with this and rolling dice. Around my primary school, I still have it as well. I you probably, yeah, you're from this generation. You probably had some plastic soldiers like in the Toy Story, like the bags of plastic, of yellow, of green plastic
Yes, I
soldiers and
remember
plastic
them
tanks.
from being in holidays, somewhere at the sea, and you would go to a tourist shop, and they would sell the bags with these plastic soldiers.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were really crappy quality, but they were plastic soldiers. Come on. So I created something like a, yeah, like an RPG dungeon crawl game for those soldiers, and I have 150 pages written rules for them. Like every soldier had a place
What?
for weapon and the morale and stuff like this, and
Oh
the
wow.
terrain and then usage, inspired by some computer games, like for example Jagged Alliance, where you got your stuff and you had to do your stuff in turns. So and my first Hex Encounter board game was as well around this time, but it was also something something similar, but it was never on the level that you would think seriously about this. It was okay. I'm bored. Let's do something. And
Right.
when I said about those three systems, so enemy action, BCS, and GTS, it was a joy for me to unravel the mechanics and the ideas there. It was really those games, those systems were really revelations for me. And actually, that was the inspiration that I want to explore some new ideas. I want to explore some new areas, and maybe try to experiment with something. And this is actually how my September game emerged, because also there wasn't a day that some morning I sat with a coffee and said, okay, I'm starting to make my game about the September. No, it was like, wow, that's interesting. For example, GTS cheat pool, leveled cheat pool. That's interesting. Okay, let's take Dark Valley game. Oh, there's a part of Poland. I'm gonna set up some units and check if this mechanic might work in here. Instead of normal cheat pool, let's do this cheat pool. And I started to experimenting with some various mechanics on in the games that had map of Poland or part of Poland. And at one point, I thought it would be easier if I make my own map. I send you also a picture of this. It was a
Yes.
clean hex map with
Mm-hmm.
just pencil drawings, and this is the same map that we're using now in the same scale. But it started like this, and I started experimenting with many different mechanics. When it started to really forge into something solid, into, let's call it, a game. So first it
Yeah.
was supposed to be something different, something like I'm doing Tomaszów Lubelski for the formation system. So a game in a system, but it quickly turned out I want to change so many things. I want to experiment with so many things that I can confidently say that this is the beast of its own. It has some
Yeah. It's a new
inspirations
system.
from many
Yeah.
games, but
Yeah.
the system is really something new, something different.
All right. So let's talk a bit about the game. Um, it's not just part of the Poland campaign. It's the whole thing, right?
Yeah,
The
it's
whole
the whole
campaign.
thing. It's the whole
Yeah.
thing. Yes.
So, um, I mean, it was a pretty one-sided campaign in history, right?
Mm,
At least that's how people know it broadly. And how did you come along to making the game a challenge for both sides? And are there any myths you could like solve or make people
mhm,
aware of,
mhm.
like with the
Oh,
famous horse riders and them?
see, there are many holes that whoever does not know this campaign in details might be a little surprised of what happened there, because if you look at it on the strategic level, yes, it was one-sided. There's no way, and there's, I think in the prologue, there's said that there is no way Poland is gonna win in the way that, okay, Polish troops will march on Berlin and Moscow at the same time. There's no way. On the operational level, on the other hand, many people might even not know or just have a glimpse of idea that in this campaign there were two large Polish counteroffensives. One was kind of dramatic counteroffensive, but the second one was prepared. I'm talking about Bzura Battle, which started on September 9th, and both of those counteroffensives had some tactical success in the first days and were really big surprise for the Germans. And if you the Bzura battle is somewhat well known, but the second offensive, Tomaszów Lubelski battle, which by the way happens almost in the same region as Krzysiek Biernacki's Across the Book game. It's Hrubieszów region, but on the other side of the book. This is this area. Right there, it is, and this is why I took it as a topic for a formation game, because this is double Polish offensive of two fronts that were not really communicating with each other, but it was in a point where Wehrmacht wanted to withdraw. There were orders that Soviets are coming, we are going to withdraw. Wehrmacht was not prepared for this battle, and this battle is very interesting because its goal is to punch through the German withdrawing units, really fatigued and out of ammunition, out of fuel at this point, and reach Lichtenvoorde. In some German memories, in some German commander memories, you can read that in many ways this battle, Tomaszów Lubelski battle in Poland 1939, was the most intense battle in the history of their service. Like, it was more intense than even the Eastern Front, because in many ways Eastern Front was very static, right? You had your weather, but the one unit, as there were not so many units in Poland as later in Russia, for one unit being on the front line in attack, in offensive, because being offensive is much harder than being in defensive. And this is also one thing that I underline in my CRT, which we can talk about later. About after 2 weeks of being on the front line, on the spearhead, they were ordered to, almost 3 weeks actually, they were ordered to go back. Okay, over, we're going back to Germany. And then you get ordered to turn around, gather whatever ammo and fuel you can, and go back to fight again against not one, not two, but 6 Polish divisions, which are really frantically again attacking, and it's gonna be another few day and night non-stop battle on the front line. So this really dramatic battle. It's I didn't know much about this battle until I started to find as much books and information about this battle, and it really struck me. So from this point of view, there are scenarios where Poland is attacking and have some changes. Well, it's hard, but there are some chances to get some tactical success and ultimately win the scenario. On the campaign level, on the campaign level, we have a morale system which gives you completely different point of view. Like, you are not there to win the campaign; you are there to do your goals, to finish your goals in the campaign, and this is what it's all about. And this is very important because this is exactly what was the Polish General Staff point of view. Because even after 2 weeks of combat on the run in Brest, General Staff did not believe that it is over. There were still reorganized fronts and divisions were still attacking, because there was in belief that this is over and the Polish army as the whole has still their goals. So what makes this game even challenge for both sides is the goals, actually. And it's not always just winning. And for the Polish side, this is the morale, to keep the morale high, which is very
Keep the
important
morale
part
up.
of this
Okay,
of this
cool.
game.
Right. So you mentioned that there's scenarios where the Polish are in the offensive. How many scenarios are there?
There are going to be 18 scenarios plus one with the free setup. There are going to be rules to govern some setup, but it's gonna be there. The same as I have an idea for some simplified solo bot, how to perceive when you wanna play solo. You're gonna have some guidelines for your enemy side. And for multiplayer game, there are going to be also guidelines how to give your roles, and how one player, for example, the general player, will have some more authority over armies than the other players. So, this is until like this that you will get your free setup, but I think the normal scenarios will be the most played part of this
Right.
game.
So you have smaller scenarios. You have a big campaign game
Yes.
which has lots of units and the big map, but then we have smaller scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
So I think learning the game is the hardest part, because there's it's not complicated, but it's complex, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
lots of mechanics, like the morale system, the air system. There's some naval units. There's some special rules about bridges and so on. So, what's the approach to ease learning the game?
Mm-hmm. So this is actually as important as the game itself. I really, really put pressure on myself to get people to play this game, because well, the first problem is that this is Poland 1939, so most of players, when they see, for example, game in the market and see Poland 1939, yeah, that's one-sided team. No, I don't wanna. And it's complex game. Oh no, I'm not buying that. I'm not going this way. So I am aware from the first version of this game printed, that I printed many handmade copies and sent to many people. There are some, actually many playthroughs and unboxings of those first games on the YouTube. I always knew that if this game has any chance to be played by anyone, I mean literally anyone, there has to be a learning system. So I came. This is one of the most important focuses of this game, is the learning system. So first, the newest one is, maybe you saw this in the Vassal module. There's a start guide that takes you hand by hand, step by step. Look here, click here, move this unit here. If you want to know why did you do this, read the paragraph, this one. Now drag this unit here. And then you start playing game not thinking about this at all. And when you finish the start guide, you can look at the rules and see what have you done, right? So you have in memory, muscle memory, what you did and what you have done. So this is for the Vassal. And for the main game, we're going to have five. There are officially 5 learning scenarios, where the 6th scenario is not learning scenario, but it is very important. So the first scenario takes only 5 units. It's I've tested it blind. How do you call it?
Yeah, blind play testing.
Blind. Yeah,
Without the
I
players,
did.
getting information except the rules, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I did a bunch of blind play tests on the conventions. We didn't do one on Wargammer. It was supposed to be, but I think no, we did not. But on other conventions, I did that, and it took 20 to 30 minutes to learn the first scenario and to play. So we're gonna have the main rule book, which is gonna be the big sturdy book with not only rules but heavy with my designer notes, because if there's some funny mechanics that you might think, what, how why does this work this way? I want to explain all of these things, because when you sometimes when you have some complex mechanic and you read the designer notes, you start to have another approach to this. Like, why was this mechanic introduced this way? So you can understand it from the designer's point, and then it's really easier to understand. And we're gonna have, which is gonna be the learning, called the learning rule. And in the learning rule book, we're gonna have only the main basic core rules, movement and combat rules for the first scenario. So you won't have to skim the main rule book, which paragraph to read. You're just gonna open the book and read. I think it's now 10 pages of rules, 8 pages of really easy rules for the first scenario, to play the really little scenario with 5 units, only with movement and combat. Then in the second scenario, we expand this. And actually, on the player rates and the flowcharts, there are going to be markings L1, L2, L3. So you use the main player rate, you use the main flowchart, but you have pointed out which part of this flowchart is going to be used in scenario 1, for example. So you bypass most of the things, but you know that they're there. So if you read this once, you remember, oh yeah, there was something like this, but I skipped it for now. The second scenario, we introduce some support, and then we go to the third scenario, also 8 units, around 8 units, and this is important. Scenario 3 is Gdynia battle. It's on the coast. We introduce very simplified time track and the main activation system, because first two scenarios completely skip the main activation system. It's like roll a die, see who activates now, and move your units, right? In the third scenario, we add a very simplified activation system to get you involved and get you familiar with the time track and how cheats work. Then we've got the fourth scenario, which is a little down south in the corridor in the Bory-Tucholskie forests. And then we got almost kind of a main game. We start using the main rule book, but still we add only some of the rules. We don't use air power, we don't use morale, we don't use any complex rules of the game. This scenario takes around 40 minutes to an hour to play. We also did blind test in the Agro War Convention. And then we've got scenario 5, where we add simplified morale and simplified air power. And then we've got the scenario 6, which says that if you have played your learning scenarios from 1 to 5, now if you don't know the topography of Poland, if you don't know the campaign order of battle, you've got the scenario 6, which is the Northern Poland campaign, the first week. And then when you see it, you see that this is scenario 3 plus scenario 4 plus scenario 5 on the full rules. So you already know the terrain, you already know the units, you already know what to do on those fronts, but instead of using simplified rules, you simply use the main rules now. And some of the rules are also not used in the first part of the campaign, because there are rules regarding movement of and escape of the general staff. There are some rules regarding Warsaw, encirclement of Warsaw and the Warsaw battle. There are rules regarding Soviet entry to Poland. If you play the first scenario, you don't have to read those paragraphs at all. And they are all written in the way, and it is emphasized in many ways that don't read anything that you need now. Soviet offensive, don't read this now, you don't need this now.
Yeah.
You're gonna have procedure for this. When the Soviet starts to advance, then open this one and read step by step, and this will guide you through the game. So I hope with those 5 learning scenarios, the game will be really manageable and really
more
quick.
Approachable. Yeah.
Yes. You add your rules step by step.
So I mean, in the full campaign, you have integrated lots of details, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different bridge types. You have a certain mechanic, daily foot rate, how far infantry units can go per game day, independent on the number of activations.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a detailed order of battle. You even sent me the screenshots of a playtest where you playtested the campaign and did a screenshot for every day, every single day of the campaign, where you could track and follow the progress of each unit throughout the campaign.
Actually, that was campaign. I recreated historical campaign with the Vassal module.
Exactly, and it showed incredible historicity. So, how did you come along with the research for this? I mean, you must be an expert on this campaign for now. Probably it helps being a train driver, going through through the landscape and seeing all the terrain and on all the bridge features and whatsoever. But how did you get started on this even?
Mm-hmm. So it's as I said, I was at one point I was supposed to be historian and go to college to study history. So I was deep in the Second World War, way before my college. Actually, I did conduct some history lessons in my class in my high school. So I was so already deep into the Second World War that I asked my history teacher, "Can I do this?" Okay, 3 lessons are yours, and I explained to the class just like a teacher the Second World War from my let's say using some stuff and some extra components to to get them interested in this theme. So I'm reading history books and really detailed history books for around 20 years now. So there's plenty of time to learn about the campaign. So before I read only the most general books about the September campaign, and when I started to work on the game, so it's gonna be more than 6 years now, around 6 years. I started to pursue war paths of many units and many parts of this campaign step by step using books that are available, for example, monographs of armies. So you get monograph of Army Pomorze and you read warpaths of units and stuff that happened there. I've read some German memories from the September 1939. I've read, for example, this is very basic basic things to read, but for example, Achtung Panzer is very important because it gives you a light how the Blitzkrieg was born how it was practically born in 1939 and what was its limitations. Because remember, Poland 39 for Wehrmacht was not walk in the park. It was never walk in the park. It was a very difficult campaign to play out, and it's just a time. The main factor is time. It is so many years of me reading, but not reading for, I need to read this, I need to learn this. It was like reading, well, also maybe not for fun, but just thinking, I want to know what this division done on the September 10th. I have a blank spot on my map. Okay, let's go. Let's open the monograph. Let's read where they were. Oh, the HQ at this hour was there. Okay, I see it now. And there are many very, very good books about this campaign. One of which is what I really recommend to read is Forczyk Fallbeiß. It's a short book, but it shows this campaign in really interesting and a different context than most of the books. So it was one of the important books for me also to read about, to understand some things that were not that really commonly known about this campaign before. So it's all time.
Yes. So you would recommend getting the book together with the game and then follow it along?
I'm not a salesman, but yes, because this book, amongst many others, immediately when you start reading the prologue and just the first chapters that take 30 minutes to read this, you get hooked of, okay, this campaign might not have been what I thought it was, right? It's different. There's one very important quote that I also included in my designer notes, that if you think that Blitzkrieg was the well-oiled unstoppable machine the same as 1940 and 1941, you're wrong. It was not. The Wehrmacht was learning in Poland, and it was learning the hard way. Well, the good thing is that the opponent was really easy to well, maybe not easy, but it was easy to be outmaneuvered. That's the most important thing. That
All right.
The Wehrmacht, that was the training ground for Wehrmacht, and there are also some quotes that the France 1940 and most certainly Barbarossa would not have happened in the way that it happened, would not have had success if there was not a Poland 39 campaign before, because there were so many mistakes made that and the German army learned quickly. So so I think and I believe and I think and I will never change my mind that the German army of the Second World War was the best army in the world, period, because of their learning curve, how they learned by experience, how they used technology, how they evolved, how they improvised on the battlefields of Europe. That's just no army of the world can really raise this. Well, the other issue was the materials and the geopolitical situation, but that's topic for another conversation.
All right. Yeah. So for long have you been working on the game, and how did you find the title of the game?
So around 6 years is now. I do not have the starting date, as I said. It just emerged, and the title of the game is also very important part of this game, because I wanted to this the first time the idea came to me was that the title of the game is the important selling point. No question there. And in Force to Heaven, for many people is something that you stop and have a second to think, okay, what is this title about? What is this game about? Poland 1939. Maybe you'll get interested, or maybe not. But if you get interested, you might take a few seconds to look at the game, look at the description. And in Force to Heaven has many contexts in it, because first, this is not a direct; it's a translated quote for a very well-known poem, very well-known in Poland, poem about Westerplatte soldiers, which was written in 1939, just hot after the campaign. It was written down there. It is about soldiers of Westerplatte, and it's like every child in Poland knows this because this is taught at school. It's just a poem in the Polish composition that you have to learn. So in Force to Heaven, if you say in Force to Heaven, everyone immediately knows that this is about Westerplatte. So this is the first context of the name, and if you don't know that, and you don't know the name, you don't know this poem, and the poem is in the rulebook actually translated, then you think of this title as a symbol, because it's not straight open simple like German attack or Poland defense or Poland 1939. It's kind of a symbol that in Force to Heaven serves as a quote, and it should take you on the tracks to think about this game, about the game of symbols, because from the clean military perspective, it is one-sided campaign, right? Poland cannot win. But from the other perspective, from the moral perspective, from the goals and the point of view of Polish general staff and Polish people, from the point of view that some people still remember that Westerplatte, this is where the war started. For example, the Trzew Bridge, the Mokra battle, or the legendary, untrue of course, the charge of cavalry with sabers on tanks. Legends like this emerged from this campaign. And what is the most important thing that some people sometimes maybe not be aware of, that this is really the first campaign, the first great campaign that this is that much broadcasted live to people, not only in Poland but in the world. It is said that sometimes it is said that war in Vietnam is the war that you can watch live on your TV, right? Campaign in Poland was watched or listened to live in radios and newspapers. So September 2nd, there was a title, Lions of Westerplatte are still defending. And actually this title came to my mind. I think it came to my mind before the recent events of war in Ukraine, but I can't really skip this and tell you that the war in Ukraine and what happened there really strengthened my view of what this title should be like. Because in 2022, symbols like the Snake Islands, the symbols like Azovstal, it's the direct mirror of Polish Westerplatte and Gdynia defense, hopeless defense just to keep the nation up, to go to the military, go to the army and fight your defensive war, right? And this is what really, really, really helped Ukrainian military to get people eager to fight and to just make the decision to go to fight on the war, right? This is exactly the same what happened in Poland. It was broadcast live. So the symbols of the campaign, that some of which became famous later, like Westerplatte, some of which were just disappeared after the war, but those symbols broadcasted live on radio, on newspapers, helped military to really keep people fighting and keep the nation on its fighting stance. Because if wasn't that, I suppose it might have ended quicker.
Yeah, and this is all portrayed in the game, right? With Radio
Yes.
Warsaw and the morale system.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So the title gives you a direct impression of what the game is, what to seek in this game, and this is a game of symbols, and the title is a important symbol. But of course, it is still hex and counter war game with tanks and infantry divisions.
Exactly. So previously you mentioned the CRT, like the combat results table, right? So why don't you give us some brief insights into what your ideas are?
This is going to be a long one, and I will get a snowball effect here. So
maybe
just
I need to
stop me.
I need to invite you back for the next session, I guess.
Yeah. So first, CRT. So CRT at first look looks really simple, because it is simple. It's standard CRT that uses one d6 roll at the first look, because this is not straight d6 roll. It's a d6 roll with the Gauss curve, Gauss probability. But maybe the first thing that you might notice is in every ratio standard column, strength ratio table, on the top you have a plus AL result on every column. And this inspiration came to me from the enemy action. If anyone has played it, you know that even if you have 10,000 panzer divisions against one infantry battalion, if you get your combat cheats wrong, you will get losses. There is no such thing that in 10-1 you have no losses. And in real campaigns, the attacker is the one who takes losses. So I got hooked by this idea and thought that I will introduce this into the CRT, that if you get a low roll in any combat, in any column, you will get losses. And the way that you influence your CRT is not through column shifts, but mainly through DRMs. I always like more DRMs than column shifts, because the column shifts, even if you have symmetrical CRT, like you have your combat results going from one side to the other CRT, and whichever way you go with column shifts, it's always going to be a similar result. I used to have symmetrical CRT. I do not anymore. There's a change from 3-1 up, because there's a magic number. 3-1 in combat is kind of a magic number. But the most importantly, if you have CRT and a column, you have some results from, for example, from 1 to 6 or from 1 to 8 in my case. So DRMs can stretch your results a little more. And if you use column shifts, you basically are only limited by the CRT. So if you have 1 to 1, you can get 10 column shifts, and boom, from attack 1 to 1, you get like complete overkill, right? But if you use DRMs, you have much smaller limits. If you go in column 1 to 1 and the lowest result is attacker loss, no matter how many, and the best result, for example, is both loss, or let's say organized defender retreat. This is the most that you can get. You will not get overkill in low column ratios.
Okay.
So this is one of the first idea. So this is why I use DRMs, not column shifts. There is one way to get column shifts, and this is via army artillery. It's actually technically it's a corpse artillery, but I call it for the sake of simplicity, I call it the army artillery. Army artillery is the only component that make you column shifts, and this is different. This is different from, for example, division artillery, which gives you DRMs. And what are DRMs generated from? Everything like terrain, support. There's not really wrong, but there's pretty big. Well, not too big, smaller than in many games, but there's a column shifts. Sorry, not column shifts. DRM table, and most of all, what you want to get there is the positive DRM to avoid getting this plus AL. Because, for example, if you attack in woods, in let's say night, where you get a minus, you are not set up for the attack in the comfortable way, and you will get, for example, -3 DRM. You can attack with 2 panzer divisions against one regiment. You will get attacker loss because your result will go down. So this is why. So this is what I wanted to introduce, that you are never safe in attack. You can always take a step loss unless you prepare your attack very well. And now when you see the army artillery, which gives you column shifts, imagine that you have attack in the terrain. For example, you don't have many other support. You have, for example, -2 DRM. So what you can improve with your column shift, with your army artillery, is your result to, for example, get a breakthrough, to get your defender retreat instead of exchange. But in case of tactical situation, the -3 DRM remains. You will take your losses the same as you not use. So this is one of the big ideas. The second big idea, and there's also a lot of context around this, is that I invented because some of those things, I don't say that they were never used in any war game in the history of wargaming, but some of those ideas are like really mine. I were influenced in some way. Like the enemy action gave me idea that with cheats, attacker will take some losses, right? But this is not the direct copy of this mechanic. It's completely different, only influenced by this mechanic. And something that I've never seen before and invented myself is the D6 Gauss roll. Let's call it this way. So basically, you have a D6 roll because I hate CRTs that are really spread around 20, 30 results, right? Because you can't really expect what is going to happen. I like small CRTs, so you can expect what you can expect what is going to happen. But I don't like D6 CRT where you could have the same probability for the roll of 1 and the roll of 6. This is also not really good. So I came with a mechanic that you roll 2 dice and you pick one priority dice. In this, we can call it the color dice or priority dice. And if you get 3 or 4 on any of those, this is the result. If you get 3 or 4 on both, you get the priority result. So, for example, red 3, white 4, the result is 5. If you get no 3 or 4 on any result,
Right, I've never
you're
seen this
going to
before.
get again priority result. So you've got CRT with results 1 to 6 on 1 to 6, but you have most probable results around 3 to 4. And I use what is called the combat template. So when you start your battle, you put the combat template with the results from 1 to 6 to your CRT, and then you move it to the column, and then you move with the DRMs. So for example, if you got 2 DRMs, you don't need to calculate this in your head. You just move your combat template 2 steps down, and then you immediately see that if you roll 3 or 4, your results will be those from 5 and 6. So it really eases and speeds up combat. Yes.
Right. It's a marker you can put on the combat results table and then shift it down or upwards,
Yes.
depending on the DRMs.
Exactly.
And you also have highlighted the 3 and 4 results.
Exactly.
Cool.
And
So,
it's
right.
Yeah, go on. I said
no.
snowball.
Please.
Snowball.
Snowball.
Okay.
It's
small snowball.
rolling.
Small
Okay.
snowball.
But
yeah, I want to add for the combat template that when you calculate your initial conditions for combat, based on this combat template and the results 3 or 4 highlighted, you can really think of what support do you need. Like, okay, 3 or 4 is now on both loss and the defender retreat. I wanna give some. I wanna make some step losses. Okay, let's find DDR result. Okay, so to get DDR, I need to move the template, for example, by 2 DRM. What can I use? Okay, artillery. Okay, tactical air support and something, or add some unit. You really have control over what is happening.
Right. So, I'm looking at the time here. Maybe we should talk about some other things real quickly. So, the timing regarding this game. We'll try to get it to the printer around April, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing some updates to the components after the play testings we did in Poland, for example, last year. And then we're almost there, right? So if there's people interested in the game, is there any chance they can support with playtesting? I mean, you have a Vassal module, right?
Yes, I'm working on Vassal module, which is very much. It's not complete yet, but it's fully playable. And I recently posted it on Wargamers Facebook group, but with not much of response. But maybe I put the post wrong. I think I will do it again.
So we've also not yet set up a page for the game on our website, but anyone interested in this topic can check it out on Board Game Geek. There's a game page for Enforced to Heaven, where they can find some pictures of how it looks like, and yeah, right.
Yeah, and I will post a Vassal module there when I just do some few last things to update, and I think we can do the upload of the rulebook, which is in text finished, but just needs to be polished.
Yes, we'll upload it. And is there any chance to meet you at any conventions this year?
The main problem is the combined age of my 2 kids is 5.5. So that's kind of a literally a little problem. But I really can't go on any international conventions right now. It's just no chance with my work and kids and the stuff. But I will be in conventions in Poland, just like every year. The most probably on Wargammeron, which is conducted in Warsaw in the end of August. Then probably on AgroWar around October, also near to Warsaw in the Jabłonna Palace. And I might attend in March convention in Poznań. but it is all in country. But in the future, I think when the game is released, I really want to join you and go, for example, to San Marino or to some
Yeah,
conventions that you're gonna go with your team to,
sure.
just to show the game and give people some opportunities to play some smaller scenarios.
Yeah,
Or
the intro scenarios, that's perfectly suited for
yeah,
conventions and for introducing people to the system.
yeah. But
So,
you had fun with the campaign.
yeah, absolutely. So, what's will it be a system where you plan to release other games with the same core rules?
Yes, yes. As I said in the
Tell me
beginning,
about it.
I used to write 150 pages of rules for Plastic Soldiers. So yeah, having a war game, serious war game in hand, I have plans for the future. So yeah, I want to turn this into the system, but I don't think I want to make game of this much scope and magnitude anymore.
Right.
But I have some ideas. I have some dream ideas to for topics like the Greece 1941. This I think is going to be my next project. I already have map and ideas and the books and all of the components that I need to make this, but
And
not
also,
free.
there's not many games about this,
That's the
right?
thing, because I
Yeah.
mean the mainland campaign, which is so much interesting in terms of what is the context of this campaign, what is the point of the Second World War, and actually what happened on the mainland. You know, the Crete battle is really
Right.
over-explained,
Yeah.
but what
Always
led
Creed.
to the Crete battle, that's the whole other story. Some people forget that there's a full-blown Greece versus Italian campaign in the same time in the same region. So I really want to explore this topic. And then I want to go with Poland 44 and Poland 45, like the same area as in Force to Heaven, but we go with the Soviet steamroller towards towards west. And now pay attention. Three, two, one. Market Garden.
Oh wow.
European gamers now go, what? Seriously? American gamers go like, yay, do it. But I want to give it a little more of a context, to not focus on the market garden as it historically was. Of course, this is going to be the core battle, but the context of what was happening in the Antwerp, in the Hurtgen, there might be another path through those bridges to go, like Market Garden, but regarding other alternative setups,
Hmm.
like there was near Arnhem, there was 9th and 10th SS divisions. Actually, the fact is that it is almost certainly plausible that completely different units might have been there. Like the Allied headquarters did not really were not really sure what is there, right? So it's an interesting field to explore, to find another ways to approach this campaign. And also the context of the Arnhem battle is that those divisions that were there were retreating from the Falaise battle, which ended 3 weeks earlier. So so how Falaise battle differently would have ended, the Market Garden might have looked really
Right.
differently.
Some
And I want to explore
hypotheticals.
of those
Yeah.
contexts in the
Cool.
Market Garden game.
So it won't get boring for you.
No, no way.
And then,
That's
then
frightening, actually. That's frightening.
yeah. And now, besides from the Enforced to Heaven system, you're also working on other games, right?
Hmm.
The Tomashov game
Yes.
using the formation system from Dirk Blenneman,
Yes, exactly.
right? Yeah, I guess I have to invite you again in the future, and then we can talk about other projects. What do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just
Right.
Memory 5 and we can upload the link.
Cool. All right. So I guess we have to wrap it up here. I want to thank you for your time. And I mean, I could get an impression you're so passionate about designing those games and about the history behind it. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of work ahead of us on different projects, right?
I
So,
certainly hope so.
yeah. Thanks for
So
your
thank you
time.
again for your invite. Thank you for your time. And
Yeah.
see you.
We'll stay in touch.
Stay in
See ya.
touch. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.